If your employees don't feel safe to speak up, it doesn't matter how talented they are, you're only getting half their potential. And when silence takes over, motivation, collaboration, and performance all drop. The good news? When leaders build psychological safety, those numbers don't just improve, they often double. In this video, I'll show you 3 ways to make that happen. Have you ever hesitated to speak up or get the feeling that nobody really cared what you had to say? I'm not talking about depression or anxiety, though a lack of safety can certainly fuel those. I'm talking about the subtle signals we get from others. 73% of employees reported that they have a great idea at work every month and then they keep it to themselves. That's not just a number, it's a signal of untapped potential. Because here's the truth, people don't leave their history at the door when they walk into work. Maybe you've never felt unsafe speaking up. Maybe you've always worked for leaders who encouraged contribution, or perhaps you have strong self-confidence. But not everyone has that experience. For some, silence isn't laziness, it's survival. Think about this. What if an employee grew up in a home where speaking up led to punishment? What if a past leader embarrassed people for mistakes? What if in your own company's history, unpopular ideas got quietly ignored? Those experiences linger and they influence whether someone feels safe to contribute, even in a company that genuinely has employees' best interests at heart. That's why psychological safety isn't one and done. It's an ongoing choice, moment by moment, of how leaders think, respond, and create value. Let's dive in. Number 1, reframe work as a learning problem. Psychological safety was first coined in 1999 by researcher Amy Edmondson. In her TED Talk, she explained that the discovery happened almost by accident. She set out to test whether better hospital teams make fewer mistakes. What she found was surprising. The highest performing teams reported more mistakes, not fewer. Why? Because they saw their work as a learning problem. They weren't afraid to speak up, ask questions, or surface errors. Each admission became a lesson that prevented bigger failures. That's the essence of innovation. When people feel safe, their brains shift from threat mode to exploration mode. Instead of protecting themselves, they generate ideas, share bold thinking, and take risks that lead to breakthrough. Here's some questions for reflection. How do you frame your team's work? As a problem to solve together, or as a test they better not fail? What message does your language send about mistakes? Here's a practical step. Begin meetings by framing challenges as learning opportunities, not performance tests. Make it clear that every voice matters to finding the best solution. Number 2, glue without gossip. It builds trust in the gaps. So the second way safety boosts collaboration is by strengthening connection. Edmondson calls this inviting participation. That means creating space for every voice to be heard and modeling vulnerability yourself. When leaders admit that they don't have all the answers, it signals that curiosity, questions, and even uncertainty are welcome. This encourages people to talk to each other, not about each other. The result? Teams with psychological safety report 30% more collaboration and information sharing, according to research. Stronger glue and fewer silos. Here's another leader reflection. How do your employees talk when you're not in the room? Are they supporting and encouraging each other or protecting themselves? Here's a practical step. Share the meeting agenda 24 hours in advance. Invite input during the meeting. Maybe even set an expectation that everyone contributes. And close projects with, what should we keep, drop, or add? Small rituals like these reinforce that transparency and contribution are not optional. They're expected and valued. And number 3, respond productively to dissent. Say it out loud. Finally, Edmondson emphasizes this. How leaders respond in the moment sets the tone for everything else. If you react defensively to mistakes or bad news, you teach silence. If you respond with curiosity and appreciation, you reinforce that speaking up is safe. Here's the neuroscience. When people feel unsafe, their brains flip into threat mode. Cortisol spikes, blood flow shifts to the amygdala, and the body braces for self-protection. That's B-game thinking. Reactive, fearful, controlling. But when people feel safe, their brains shift into exploration mode. Oxytocin for trust, dopamine for motivation, and serotonin, calm, confidence, are all activated. Blood flows to the prefrontal cortex, the idea engine. That's your A game. Clear, creative, connected. Google research found that high safety teams generated 25% more revenue from new products within 18 months. And it often began with a leader showing humility. I don't have all the answers. Any wild ideas? That simple vulnerability signals it's safe to contribute, even if it's imperfect. And when that message is real, innovation flows. Think about this. A client of mine shared this story. At her previous workplace, mistakes weren't acceptable. You certainly did not point them out. That caution carried into her new role, even though the culture was different. She'd learned it was safer to stay quiet in meetings. One day, however, she offered a small idea, and her colleagues praised her. Months later, she spotted a costly error in a project report. Nervous but determined, she spoke up. To her surprise, the team thanked her for catching it. That single moment didn't just reinforce her voice, it sent a powerful message to everyone watching. This is a place where it's safe to contribute. So here's a reflection. What's the history in your workplace culture around innovative ideas? When was the last time you admitted you didn't know something? And what message would it send if you did? A practical step. Try a weekly 5-minute ritual. What worried me this week? No blame, just learning. If your interest is piqued and you'd like to learn more about psychological safety or how to engage your A game, hit subscribe, because this channel isn't just about leadership tips, it's about helping you become a valuegenic leader, someone who consistently brings their A game by choosing thoughts and actions that create the greatest net value. So what's next? Even in caring organizations, safety is never automatic. Why? Because employees bring their full stories. Childhoods where mistakes weren't safe. Workplaces where ideas were dismissed. Leaders who valued compliance over contribution. That's why safety requires vigilance. It's created or destroyed in small daily choices. How you respond to a suggestion, how you handle a mistake, how you invite disagreement. This is the essence of valuegenic leadership, seeing people's intrinsic worth as a human being and choosing thoughts and actions that create the greatest net value. It's not a handbook policy, it's a habit of mind. So let's wrap it up. Psychological safety doubles motivation by reframing work as a learning problem, inviting participation and modeling failability, and responding productively to dissent and new ideas. But here's the deeper truth. Psychological safety isn't something you can manufacture with a policy or checklist. It grows naturally when leaders are valuegenic, when you consistently choose thoughts and actions that create the greatest net value for yourself and others. Because when you truly see and treat people as having intrinsic worth, not just for what they do, but for who they are, you build trust. And trust unlocks potential. That's why self-leadership matters. It's the moment-by-moment decision to pause and ask, what choice can I make right now that creates the greatest value? Leading yourself first is the key to removing fear, creating safety, and unleashing your team's very best. Keep creating value, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.